So as I have teased now a couple of times, James, I'm going to come to you for our first question. And I really want to focus on maybe some of those signs and signals that organizations should be keeping an eye out for if they are concerned that maybe they're not trending in the right direction.
Thanks, Emma. I think for us, or in our experience, the first signs usually when they give us a ring in a state of panic. I think it used to be a case in the industry where certainly we saw at the beginnings, our clients would sort of respond to us by issuing RFPs and would be competing for work for kind of new grand programs where automation was new and they were trying to scale it. And they were looking for that partner. I think what we kind of now see a little bit more, it's now a case of kind of jumping into really quick jobs, trying to put their missold licenses to use. And that kind of for us is a large part of the work we're doing now, whereby we're trying to manage expectations about how to actually save a program and how to get it back on track. But in doing that, when we look at the kind of signs for it, the key for us first is to really fully understand what's triggered that call for help. And secondly, how has it been identified? It might, for us and for a few people on the call, it might be a case of sort of stating the obvious, but no organization are going to be able to spot the signs that a digital transformation program might be going wrong unless they've actually got people looking for it. There are undoubtedly, Kieran just mentioned it there, numerous programs out there that are failing currently, but they've just not been flagged yet, right? So they just don't know what they don't know. I think what we've seen and when we've engaged organizations, it's really important to have someone with that kind of top-down view. So whilst everyone wants to deliver automations, everyone wants to get value, you need to be able to have someone to take a step back and reflect on kind of how different parts of the program are working and whether they're aligning with the organization's goals. And that's certainly when we've been brought in, that's certainly been one of the key things for us to kind of identify early, who is that person and how are they identifying the actual root cause. The next sort of sign I'd look at is kind of ownership. And we emphasize this a lot through our methodologies that we deliver. There's so many moving parts to a transformation program, and every single part of those need to be fully aligned. If they're not, then it will fail. The clearest indication of a problem is when there is no one clear owner of a digital program to sort of drive it forward. I think it's also crucial, and we've seen this, to do the right things when a problem is identified, and to act as quickly as possible. This is often indicative of a failure or an issue in a program where you haven't identified the problem and you haven't acted quickly enough to fix it. We often look at that, and that might be addressed from the COE perspective, but it's certainly a sign that that's probably not working correctly. Asking relevant questions along the way. I mean, how often have we seen programs where no one's actually taken a moment to stop and ask why? Is there a clear plan? Why have we bought this technology? Are we looking at the solution first instead of the technology first? Can you articulate clearly why you're doing something and what is it going to cost you in the long term? I think what we've said as well, and we try and reiterate this message, is once you've identified there's a problem, the next thing to do is get to the root cause. It's not always going to be straightforward. And sometimes it might take a little time to figure it out, and that might be something you don't necessarily have a lot of, but it's certainly integral to the problem. If we link back to kind of the problem I identified with our client earlier, if it's identified that a scope of a project is too large, or it's poorly defined, I think action needs to be taken very quickly to address that. You can't just kind of blinker up and go ahead. You have to actually look at what the causes are and try to resolve them. The kind of the next one I'd look at, and we've talked about a few times, is cultural issues. I think in an organization, especially at different stages of the automation life cycle, a reluctance to change. That's something that really can put a stop on a digital program and kind of stop it from getting going. I think we look at it and we say, yes, we can expect some of that, But if that sentiment keeps coming and it's something that is not broken down correctly, then that's definitely a sign that either an education cycle has been missed or the organization isn't fully engaged, and you're going to face issues further down the line. The fear for us and what we look at is kind of people are really hesitant, I think, to start again. They're down a path, they've burned some bridges and they're struggling to go back. I think if I look at from sort of discovery through to delivery, repetition of failed practice often shows us a program that either hasn't got the right leadership in place or has gone down a path that it just can't get back from. And that's typically where we become engaged to go in and help them get back on to the right path.